Convince me.
Thank you.
Reducing
Thank you,
barriers,
Danny,
developing
really
pathways
nice, introduction.
to accelerate digital health innovation
we're actually doing
at
an epic
academic
upgrade
medical
tonight,
centers.
and
So give it up for
really,
Adam. Adam Landman. Convince me. Convince me.
Thank you, really, Danny, for the really nice introduction. And if I seem distracted, it's because we're actually doing an epic upgrade tonight and really making sure that our hospital will be running tomorrow morning. But thanks so much for the opportunity to talk with you today. One quick disclosure, I'm a senior editor at Ranked Health. It's a nonprofit organization that comes out of MIT Hacking Medicine that does evaluates digital health apps. There's no content influence in this presentation, but wanted to be transparent. I am really excited, as I think probably many of you are. It is an incredible time to be in healthcare as we shift from fee-for-service to value-based care, and we start focusing on population health management, on care coordination. And what's common across all of this is the need for information. And it's now expected that we have complete longitudinal digital information on our patients, but what we're really moving to beyond just having that information is being able to predict what's going to happen to our patients based off of that data. And if we can predict what's going to happen, can we prevent that from happening? And at the same time, as all of you have appreciated, the digital health opportunity is growing by leaps and bounds. And as you walk through the exhibitor space, I'm really blown away by some of the innovations today. Seeing, I'm an emergency physician, and I use a gigantic ultrasound machine, and now seeing that can be done on a tablet with one small probe, or seeing the innovative patient engagement solutions that can be used in acute care hospitals, or a full body sensor that can display a person's emotions outwardly. So tons of incredible solutions and a very large marketplace. But at the same time, we may be at a peak of inflated expectations with digital health. And we need to ensure that these digital health solutions are actually addressing real patient and hospital needs, really addressing pain points. And we can think about that as whether or not they address the Institute for Healthcare Improvement's triple aim. Do they help improve overall patient health and population health? Do they help reduce costs, make healthcare more efficient? And do they help improve safety and efficiency? And it's really hard to achieve all three of these, but we hope and expect that when we're implementing digital health solutions that they at least address one or more of them. And where there's another gap is that there is lack of a robust catalog of evidence for digital health innovations. We need to build out that validated evidence. And beyond the evidence, we also need to look at the workflows. Will these solutions work for our patients and their caregivers? And will they work for our healthcare providers and other staff that need to use them? And this is where I really think there's an opportunity for academic medical centers to help accelerate digital health innovation. As you all know, academic medical centers seek to provide the highest level, highest quality, and safest clinical care. We also seek to provide service to the communities in which the hospitals are located. And uniquely, academic medical centers also train the next generation of healthcare providers and leaders. And most importantly, academic medical centers have a huge role in biomedical research and discovery. And this is where I think that academic medical centers can be harnessed to accelerate digital health innovation, to be involved in the design, the testing, and the validation of digital health solutions. And I know many of you may be sitting back and sort of what Danny said of, it's really hard to work with academic medical centers, and that's definitely true for outsiders as well as those inside an academic medical center. We move slowly. These are large organizations, and that can be very difficult when you're a digital health startup and you're coming up with new ideas, iterating, releasing new products potentially on a time scale of months, and it may take, on a time scale of weeks, and it may take months or even years to sign agreements, to get IRB approvals, to move forward with collaborations at academic medical centers. It can also be really difficult to work with academic medical centers. We have to agree on terms. There are information security reviews that need to happen. And finally, academic medical centers are deeply rooted in biomedical research and development, but much of that history is in basic science. and there may not be incentives for faculty at academic medical centers to engage in health systems delivery research and digital health research. At the Brigham and Women's Hospital, which is an academic medical center in Boston, we have a long tradition of research and discovery in both basic biomedical sciences as well as health information technologies. And in 2013, the Brigham launched the Brigham Innovation Hub, or iHub. And right now, the iHub is exclusively dedicated to digital health. Overall vision of the iHub is to foster the use of digital health innovation, collaborations, and ultimately translating successful digital health solutions to patients and to improve the healthcare delivery system. And there are 3 areas of focus that we're working on. The first is digital infrastructure to make it easier to work with the Brigham. The second is focusing efforts on hospital strategic priorities. And the third is for internal hospital innovators, creating processes and support mechanisms to facilitate their use of digital health innovation tools. And so I'm now going to walk through each of these and provide some real-world examples of what we're doing. The first is infrastructure, and the key here is that we're trying to create scalable platforms to facilitate innovation, to make it easier and more efficient for outside folks and internal Brigham staff to do digital health innovation. And I'm going to share 2 things. One is how we've created a pathway to simplify the administrative burden, and the second is how we're building a platform for researchers to use mobile health tools. So there are more and more researchers, even some basic science researchers, that are getting interested in using digital health tools. Many of them are not familiar with digital health tools. They've never tried to use them in their research projects. This is a new world for them. And they quickly realize that there are rules and processes in place, and they are largely in place so that hospitals can protect their patients, their providers, and the institution, and ensure that it's a safe study or pilot. But these can be onerous. They can take months to years to get through. And so we've created the iHub API, Advise, Prepare, and Implement. And this is really a human API that's designed to facilitate getting digital health systems approved and piloted and going at the Brigham. We start, as with all IS governance processes, we start with a very brief intake form. But then we adopt some practices from the Institutional Review Board, and we actually assemble a group of experts. And those experts include folks from our contracting area, from our research computing, from infrastructure, from some of our data services, our information and security groups, and our health information management groups. And we also invite the investigator that's proposing the project, as well as any collaborators, any corporate collaborators or others. And we come together in a group setting and we discuss the project. And we discuss what's needed, and we put together a follow-up checklist for what needs to happen. So do they need a contract? Do they need a BAA? Does it need an information security review? And we list who's responsible, and we ensure that those connections are met, and we track that, and once that's met, then the pilot is given a green light. We've been doing this for about 2 years. We've had 50 pilots go through, and we have shortened the cycle time where it used to take 9 months or a year to get some of these projects approved to a number of weeks. It's been very, very well received by investigators as well as industry. Another example of infrastructure that we're building is we've quickly realized that researchers want to use patient-reported outcomes. For example, Yvonne Lee, a rheumatologist in our institution, had a grant-funded project to look at patient-reported pain, mental health characteristics, as well as activity, and look to see if that information was shared with healthcare providers, how that would influence the prescribing of disease-modifying agents. Similarly, Bob Rudin, a researcher at RAND and the Brigham Department of Medicine, had some funding to look at patient-reported outcomes for asthma. So how would patient-reported activity levels, breathing symptoms, how would that influence their management of asthma? Both of these investigators had partners with industry, and they had a lot of trouble executing the contracts. And that could be because they were working with early-stage companies that actually pivoted, and the companies were no longer focused in the same area, and so it wasn't a good alignment anymore. And it could have also been because of our internal processes, contracting languages around end-user licensing agreements, IP, that stalled these projects for months. And so we realized that both of these projects and researchers were trying to do something similar. We pooled them together. We provided expert resources from the iHub, Josie Elias, who helped bring in an independent developer, and we custom built a platform to do patient-reported outcomes for our researchers. And what you're seeing here is on the left, you're seeing actually an iOS and Android native app that is the patient-facing side and allows the patients to receive survey questions and respond to them. And the right side is a back-end dashboard that allows the research assistants, the principal investigators, and the clinicians to see the responses, act on abnormal values. And I'm pleased to say that these two projects these studies are about to commence. And we are really excited for additional researchers to now come on this platform to build out features and to have this as a very research-focused, meets researchers' needs, meets security requirements to support these projects going forward. The second area of focus for the iHub is on hospital needs-driven innovation. And our overarching goal here is to identify key pain points that the hospital is experiencing, and then also understand the incredible wealth of digital solutions that are out there, from events like this and meeting all of you, through Mass Challenge and their programs and platforms around digital health, and try to bring those two together and see if we can find matches. In some cases, we find a tool that is mature and we are ready to purchase. In others, there's an opportunity for us to help enhance the product and customize the product, and we can enter a co-development relationship. And then in others, there is no solution, and we might build it. So I want to share with you a few examples. The other thing I want to identify is hospitals have an infinite number of challenges, and there's an infinite number of digital health solutions that can help us address them. And so we have really focused on the hospital strategic priorities, which you're seeing across the boxes up top. Those are the Brigham strategic priorities and values for the year. The iHub could actually help all of those strategic priorities. And so over the next year, we are focusing on three: patient engagement and experience, active asset management, which is the efficient use of our very valuable sources, such as our operating rooms or our clinicians, and translational research acceleration. And so here's an example of something that we custom built. Nick Faro, who is the director of the Brigham Burn Center, came to me and described a problem where he wanted to increase the appropriate use of the Brigham's Burn Center. And we are one of 2 burn centers in the state of Massachusetts. And we talked about the goal of increasing appropriate transfers, so patients that go to outside hospitals, outside of the Brigham, that see a critically injured burn patient, need to be able to quickly transfer the patient to the Brigham. And in other cases, the patient is stable and they just need a way to set up outpatient follow-up. And so with the help of Mark Zhang, one of our clinical informatics fellows, and the ADK Group, a software development firm, we custom built an app. This app has 2 functions. The first is to provide 24/7 access to an attending burn physician to our community and region of healthcare providers. As you can see in the slide on the left, they hit one button to page the physician. They fill out a couple of fields in the middle of what type of burn does the patient have, and then they'll get called back by an attending burn physician to discuss whether the patient needs to be emergently transferred to the Brigham for the OR or for the intensive care unit, or whether the patient can be managed as an outpatient and have follow-up. The second feature of the app is a reference tool. As an emergency physician, I don't see burn patients that often, and they can be complex to manage. And so we provide information on burn severity classifications, as you're seeing here, or fluid resuscitation guidelines, and make it very easy to retrieve that information. We are currently piloting this at a couple of hospitals. It is available right now to download on the iOS store as well as the Google Play Store, and we are looking forward to evaluating the success of this application. Another example that I want to give is in the hospital. As many of you may know, if you've been a patient or a visitor in a hospital, it's difficult to find your way around. And we recognize that digital technologies may help patients and family members locate their loved ones or make it to their appointments or to their meetings in the hospital. And so, again, led by the iHub team of Bev Hardy and Josie Elias, we have actually found a solution, a commercial solution that was mature, and we are in the process of negotiating a contract to put in a solution that will provide web-based turn-by-turn directions to patients and family members, kiosks throughout the hospital where patients can self-serve directions, and they'll also be able to get directions on their mobile devices. And we hope this will improve the patient experience for the patients at Brigham and Women's Healthcare. The third example is an example of co-development. This is an example from the 2015 Brigham Hackathon. There was a team called Herald Health of resident physicians and students from the Boston area that wanted to try to improve the efficiency of clinicians retrieving data from the EHR. And currently, if I'm seeing a patient, let's see if I'm in the ED, I'm seeing a patient with chest pain. One of the common tests I order is a troponin. It's a blood test. It's very sensitive and specific if someone's having a heart attack. So I go in, I see the patient, I order the blood test, and then I check back in the computer every hour to see if the results have come back. Well, what Herald Health wants to do is empower the clinician to decide how they want to receive that information. Shouldn't it be pushed to me when it's available? So through Herald Health, I can set up customized rules to be notified. So I can use Herald to set up a rule that says, please notify me by my pager or my secure messaging solution or my email when the troponin is back. I might also set up a rule that says only notify me if the troponin is abnormal. And so we've signed a co-development agreement with Herald. They have integrated with our electronic systems, and we should be getting a pilot with our medical residents over the next several weeks. Brian Mullen has been leading the third component of the iHub, which is really focused on enabling and facilitating internal innovation. The first component is a studio, which provides high-level support of the culture of innovation with digital health tools. We hold networking events, we offer resources, and coaching. But for a small number of very high-potential, high-impact ideas, we have an accelerator. We provide some seed funding, we help them with prototyping, and we even help with business development. And I want to share a couple examples of our open innovation studio. The first is from Dr. Heidi Shafi, called FertileX. And as you know, infertility is a common problem affecting many of us. And actually, half the time, infertility is actually due to a problem by the man. And you may imagine this is it's awkward for me to talk about this, but it's actually even more awkward as a man to try to get a sperm test, which is actually the first step in the diagnostic workup of infertility for males. So the current status is the man has to go in to a laboratory or to an office to give a sample and have the test. Well, Dr. Shafi's research group is working to design, test, and validate a point-of-care sperm analysis test. And the iHub is involved to help with the digital health component, to figure out how can smart devices help with this analysis. And we are excited to help them hopefully advance this work, prove these methods, and lead to commercialization. The second example is Dr. Alex Lin, who started a company called BrainSpec. He's an MR spectroscopist. MR spectroscopists are able to use MRIs, but actually look at metabolic changes in the tissues. And Alex's research has identified a metabolic pattern in the data that's very sensitive and specific to identify a particular type of brain tumor. So he can run an analysis on an MR spectroscopy of a brain image and actually tell you whether or not the patient has a particular brain tumor. The challenge is his group does that in a research lab, and it can take days to run his analysis. So the iHub got involved, put together an interdisciplinary team, and is creating a digital interface that would allow this test to be performed at the point of care where the radiologist is there, offer decision support to the radiologist so they can use the MR spectroscopy and this analysis and algorithm that this group has come up with to help make the diagnosis. And a company has been formed, and they just applied for federal grant funding. As you can see, I hope you're seeing, AMCs have the ability to catalyze digital health innovation. I am really pleased to share with you today and announce a partnership between the Brigham and Women's Hospital and Evidation Health. As you know, Brigham and Women's brings a large group of expert clinicians and researchers. Evidation Health brings a network of pharmaceutical companies, payers, providers, and digital health companies. But they also bring expertise and a set of tools that enable direct-to-patient clinical trials of digital health apps. And we are so excited to partner with them to increase the evidence base for digital health apps, and hopefully we'll be back to share some of those results in the future. We're also pleased to share, and if any of you are sticking around in the Boston area, we would love for you to come visit us. The Brigham just opened a brand new building, the Building for Transformative Medicine, and we have space allocated for our Innovation Hub, and we welcome all of you to come see us and get to know us better. While I'm speaking today, the incredible work that you've just heard about is being done by a very gifted, talented, and dedicated team. Many of them are here today, so please introduce yourselves, talk to them. We're excited to meet with you. So I hope that I've convinced you that AMCs have a role to catalyze digital health innovation, and we look forward to working with you. Thanks.